So here's my opinion on this TikTok ban legislation and how it affects our democracy. So from what I've seen, in its best light, the government has explained the need for this TikTok ban legislation through two main concerns. The first is that China can access a bunch of personal data on Americans from the TikTok servers, and the second is that China can then use that data and the platform to influence or propagandize Americans. From here, we're left with two main considerations. One, is there even evidence to show that these claims are true? And then two, is this legislation that forces either a ban or a sale the proper response or solution to those claims? So let's go through these individually. On the point about evidence, it's clear the United States government has not done enough to communicate or convince the public that these concerns have validity. Tyler Cohen, an economist and professor at George Mason University, put it like this: if TikTok truly is breaking laws on a major scale, let us start a legal case with fact-finding and an adversarial process. Surely such a path would uncover the wrongdoing under consideration, or at least strongly hint at it. Perhaps this is another of those bipartisan rushes to judgment that we are likely to regret in the longer run, in which case this would be filed under too important to be left to legal fact-finding and science, a class of issues which is sadly already too large. AKA, his concern is that these accusations against TikTok and this massive step or overstep to address them is being done without the proper due process. To date, there has not been substantial evidence showing that the collection of data by TikTok is uniquely more concerning than any other app, or that the Chinese government has the ability to freely access it. To learn more about that, I recommend reading this article, which concludes that TikTok may collect an extensive amount of data, much of it quietly, but as far as researchers can tell, it isn't any more invasive or illegal than what other US tech companies do. So that begs the question that why, instead of sweeping data privacy legislation that would prevent all platforms from abusing user data, this legislation is so specifically targeted towards TikTok. Well, when you look at some of the evidence of the second concern, that China is using TikTok to influence American political views, things become even more questionable. Like, once again, I can't promise that there's a 1,000,000,000% chance that in the future nothing bad can ever happen because of TikTok. But the US government to date has not convinced us or shown us valid findings that there should be such a concern of the Chinese government influencing American opinions through TikTok. And on the flip side, some of what's been cited as Chinese influence are just widespread disagreements with United States government policy and these leaders trying to invalidate and demonize political dissent. For example, I'm sure we all remember those headlines accusing TikTok of intentionally being the reason that young people were so supportive of Palestine. But then it came out that younger people overall, both on and off the platform, were more sympathetic towards Palestinians than our elders because of differing socio-political values. And when the government can label entire realms of political discourse as a product of foreign disinformation and a threat to national security, where does that leave us? So what I'm getting at and where I stand is alongside the ACLU and the sentiments of the judge that blocked the Montana ban. At what point can speculative fear without significant evidence be enough for the United States government to severely restrict our ability to exercise our fundamental rights? Unfortunately, there have been many times throughout American history where the idea of national security has been weaponized to erode our values and freedoms as American citizens. So I think it's a necessary thing for us to push for and demand at least greater transparency and justification for these sorts of decisions. And to call it the hypocrisy of American undemocratic actions as well. What do y'all think? Do you agree or disagree? What did I miss or what did I get wrong? Let me know in the comments and follow for more.